Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at my book nook, and today we have the 2025 quarter 4 reading wrap up, as well as some yearly wrapping up stuff and some extra bits and pieces. So if you're curious as to where I'm pulling this stuff from, I'm mainly using Storygraph. I have the pro version, or whatever it's called, the plus, I think. And so I can filter like custom dates for specific stats and stuff. And also just stuff I've like calculated myself because I didn't read that much in the last 3 months. So October, November, December, in order to, warrant me being like, oh, what is this and what is that? Like it's easy enough for me to count, right? So, and when I say yearly stat, it means that I will also be telling you a bit about all the books that I read, like the calculations from all like 59 books that I read. So, 4th reading quarter wrap up. I started this in 2025 because I realized I don't read enough per month to justify a monthly reading wrap up. Personally, for me, okay. So I decided, a quarter wrap up, right? Every 3 months would make more sense because then I would have more to talk about and more stats to give and all that stuff. So 4th reading quarter wrap up. Out of my goal of 25 books at the beginning, I have read 59, which is 236%. But out of my goal of 75 books towards later during the year, because of a bet I made with my brother, I have read only 59 books. I've read 2 classics out of the 2 that I wanted to read. I read 3 romance books, 1 literary fiction. I did read a science fiction. For some reason, I did not include it in here, but I did read it. And I did not get to the mystery, unfortunately. I did have a mystery sort of locked in, but that didn't really work out, unfortunately. So then, the average time to finish was 2 days, and as for page numbers, 3 or 23% were under 300, 9 or 69% were 300 to 499, and 8% was 500, and all of them were nonfiction, so 13 books, which is 100% were nonfiction. In October, I read 8 books. In November, I read 1. In December, I read 4. So a decent amount, I think, for all 3 months, so to speak. You'll see why I only really read 1 book in November, because it was a long one. So in October, I read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. That was my science fiction. Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. The Summer War by Naomi Novik. I read the 5 Percy Jackson books in order to sort of prepare myself for season 2. And also, it's a nostalgic read. Like, it's purely for nostalgia at this point. And man, reading these books at the age of 23 just is so different. I do have a blog for it as well. And then in November, I read A Clash of Kings, which is the second Game of Thrones book. And it was good. I enjoyed it. However, it was so long. It was so long. Apparently, the last few months of the year, at least the last 2 to 3 months, means that I'm reading extremely long books, because in 2024, I read all of Stormlight leading up to the release of the 5th book. Like, I went to the bookstore to get a copy of Wind and Truth, and then that same day, I finished Rhythm of War, and like almost instantly started Wind and Truth. So I carried around that hardback copy because we didn't have, like, there were no paperbacks, nothing, and I only had mass market paperbacks for the other ones because it was too expensive to buy them in the bigger format. So I carried around that literal murder weapon for like 3 weeks, or maybe it's 2.5. I don't remember, but anyways. And then in December, I read Breath of the Dragon, Lightfall, Dawn of the Firebird, and The River She Became, which was an arc. And I actually had gotten Breath of the Dragon and Dawn of the Firebird as arcs. I just didn't read them in time for it to fully count as arcs, but whatever. And those 4 I read in a specific reading vlog. I started a series called Unread Archives, where a spinning wheel decides to choose my TBR. So in the first one, I read Breath of the Dragon. In the second one, I read Lightfall and another book, but then I put that book down, and then I switched to Dawn of the Firebird. I finished Dawn of the Firebird. I didn't end up picking the other book again. So picking it back up. So I continued and I finished that one. So I finished Dawn, and then I spun it again, and I got The River She Became. So those are all in reading vlogs. I believe it was. I think. Yeah, we're up to episode 4 now. So Clash of Kings is also in a reading vlog. Percy Jackson is in a reading vlog, and Project Hail Mary, I believe, is also in a reading vlog. And maybe Hemlock and Silver, I don't remember. Those three might be also in the reading vlog. Graphics! Graphs! Woohoo! If this decides to load. Anyways, if I'm looking that way, I'm mirroring my screen because I use the back camera, so I have to make sure that I'm in frame and that it actually goes, and I didn't run out of time. Anyways, so out of all the 13 books, 9 were digital and 4 were actually audiobook plus ebook/physical. So that was Project Hail Mary, Clash of Kings, Breath of the Dragon, and Dawn of the Firebird, since The River She Became is an arc. So it does not have an audiobook, and I didn't have like a DLC or anything. And then we have, so those are 4 like combined. Gender of authors by books, we have 8 books by men and 5 by women. And the only reason the men one is higher is because I read all the Percy Jackson books. Graph time. I have a little weird of a graph for this one. It's Kindle via Libby versus Kindle KU versus Kindle owned versus physical versus other, because I read from a variety of different sources. So I have 3 from NetGalley, we have 4 Kindle owned, and we have 6 from Libby. I've really gotten into using Libby. More graphs. We have 5, so it's adult versus YA. In this case, it's adult versus YA versus middle grade. We have 6 adult books, 2 YA, and 5 middle grade. And then genres, this is only according to Storygraph. So it overlaps, which is why it doesn't fully equal 13. What is going on? So we have 12 fantasy, 6 middle grade, 2 young adult, 1 science fiction, 1 romance, and 1 GN. I have no clue what GN is. What is GN? Okay, I'll figure that out. Editing me will figure that out. Next, we have standalones versus series. We have 3 standalones and 10 series. Next, we have star ratings. I gave 1 book 4 stars. I gave 3 books 4.5 stars. I gave 2 books 4.75 stars. And I gave 7 books 5 stars, and my average rating for the quarter was 4.77 stars. And my quarter 4 hopefuls read that were read in quarter 4 was only The Clash of Kings, unfortunately. And I have a bunch of YouTube videos that you should check out from said time period. We have Book Club 2026 announcement. We have the Ranking 30 Plus series. We have the Unread Archives episode 2, which is where I read Dawn. And we have Guessing Books with My Sister by the cover. And then my 2026 hopefuls, I'll speed run through them, but I will have a separate video for this. So we have The Wolf and His King, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter, North and South, The Library of Amerlin, Master and Margarita, Penelope's Bones, Red Thread, The Epic Woman of Homer, the first bit of the Russian Fellowship of the Ring, Tome 1 or Volume 1 of the Count of Monte Cristo in French, City of Brass, Gideon the Ninth, A Storm of Swords, Jade City, The Wolf Den, This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me, a Russian book about like Skarsky, but like with the female archetypes, Ruska, Gunmetal Gods, Talon Sister, The Strength of the Few, The Everlasting, and the second, The Death of Locke. So that is it for this quick speed run video. I enjoyed all the books that I read. None of them, as you saw with the ratings, were terrible. I'm so sorry. I keep losing like the screen or whatever the hell is going on. I don't know what's happening. But yeah. So with that being said, if you're interested in checking out any of the previous versions of this, I will have them linked down below. I would hope that you would check out other quarter wrap-ups and stuff like that. Let me know if you want like a yearly wrap-up. I feel like that wouldn't be too difficult to make, but still, I enjoy doing the quarterly wrap-ups. I feel like it's just too much, too much end of year sameness right now, because we're all talking about the books that we read in the past. I don't have a worst of, but I might have like a best of list. If I had to narrow it down to like 10, I want to say, I could probably knock off a couple. I could probably tell you which ones and probably have an honorable mentions list probably. Anyways, so quarter 1 hopefuls, I will have a separate video for that. Consider it like a quarter 1 TBR, like a TBR. I don't know. I'm not going to go too much into it. So yeah, with that being said, check out the other videos. Follow me on all my socials. I'm more active on Instagram-ish. And I will see you in the next one. Happy reading.